Hello everyone and welcome to the Bandit's Den. I've refilmed this so many times because it's not something I'm used to talking about. I talked to you guys last week, or last video anyways. I don't know when I'm going to post this. I talked to you guys about turning your light on in the spiritual world, in the metaphysical world, in another dimension. I talked about, opening your portal, opening your door to what's out there. That was a warning. I hope you guys get the point that it's something you should really know before getting involved in my side of spirituality. Because it was something I didn't know. It was something I wish I had known and been prepared for, more prepared for possibly experiencing. Then again, on the other hand, if I had known about it, there is a possibility I wouldn't have even bothered. If I even believed who was telling me what happened, if they had a similar situation as me. This video should serve as, I guess, another warning video for before anybody starts in the kind of spirituality I'm involved in. And it's a warning of be careful what you do. Be careful what you do. Now, you can't really foresee all of the consequences because you're human, right? You can't really foresee all of the consequences of things you do. Both in the real world, everybody knows that, but also in the spiritual world. And all you can do pretty much is damage control when you set out to accomplish something. Damage control in the sense of trying to make it so that as little goes wrong as possible. Look at workings, look at sorcery or whatever as medication. Medications, each medication has a specific purpose. And the thing with medications is they have side effects. They have undesired side effects. But there is no cure-all pill, right? Like chemotherapy or radiation therapy, for instance. The goal is to kill the cancer before the patient. And sometimes that's accomplished. Sometimes, unfortunately, it isn't. But the thing is, you're killing the patient at the same time. So the patient experiences a lot of suffering during the process. That's kind of an extreme example. Another example is Vicodin. Painkiller pills, for example. Opiate-based painkillers. The intended purpose is to dull pain and make it more bearable. But the thing is, if somebody's in pain for an extended period of time, they start becoming dependent on that opiate-based painkiller. That's one side effect, is it's addictive. Another side effect is it impairs you, and it impairs your ability to operate heavy machinery, much like alcohol. Of course, I know very well they don't feel the same at all, but both do impair you. And so that's another undesired side effect. Yeah, it's killing the pain, but you're impaired and slowly becoming dependent upon that drug. So look at working with the metaphysical realm, manipulating energies, manipulating things in the spiritual world, sorcery, witchcraft, whatever you want to call it. Look at it in that kind of way. There is an intended effect, but there will always be side effects. And some of them are undesired. Some of them will be good, but some are undesired. For example, you have a friend that's always been poor all his life. He's got a family that's always starving because he tries his hardest in life. He does. He really does. But he just can't seem to be able to succeed. And he's a good person and all this stuff. So what you want to do is do something to give him a little nudge in the right direction, because you can see he's tried everything. He's gone down every avenue, and just his family is still poor. And you really like this person. So what you do is you go ahead and do some type of success or money working or whatever, you know, especially if he's looking for a new job or if he's open to new jobs. And you know, if you're working as successful and he has more success in life, is able to provide for his family more, you know, one undesired side effect could be he could become a pompous asshole. He could become a dick and develop a big head about the whole thing. You know, and that's the thing about Wicca, is their read is do as ye will and it harm none. Essentially, as long as you're not hurting anybody, do whatever you want with your practice. But I think it's another Wiccan philosophy is to not do workings on or for somebody without their knowing. Correct me if I'm wrong, if that's Wiccan or not. I've heard it somewhere. Some group of people believe that it is not morally correct to do workings on or for people who are unaware that you're doing that. Well, thankfully, I don't subscribe to that, and so I can do workings on people or for people without them knowing. And so some people around me succeed in ways they didn't think they could. Now, I'm not saying their success is mine. I'm not saying that at all. They do a lot more footwork than me. They do all of the real world efforts, which is a lot more work, in my opinion. Now, back to the Wiccan Rede. Oh, I lost where I was in my head. Well, anyways, that aside, the Wiccan Rede. Do as ye will and it harm none. The thing is you have to factor in so many things. And I forget if I mentioned it at the beginning of this video. I've refilmed it so many times. My favorite YouTuber on witchcraft, she takes this shit really seriously. She's very realistic about it, and she's objectively very informative. She says to get before you cast a spell. And that book outlines, it is Wiccan influenced, but that book outlines a lot of things. And just like the whole opening a door I wish I had known about before I started on this path, in a way I wish I knew about it. In some ways I suppose it's good because I can tell others about it. I think this is another thing that's good for people to know. And this is something that I went over before I did anything, because I did a lot of research before I started in this practice, and I made sure I had my shit down. I made sure that I wouldn't fuck anything up severely. And thus far I haven't. But that book is really good. It essentially outlines what you should look at and stuff, and a lot of it kind of alludes to making sure you stay within the Wiccan Rede, do as ye will and it harm none. Well, the thing is, it's really hard to avoid hurting anybody or inconveniencing anybody even. You can look at all the angles you can think about, but the world seeks balance. And so where you create success for one person, it could be their detriment, it could affect them negatively, it could fuck over somebody else, it could decrease someone else's success. It's always looking for a balance. Just like, high pressure and low pressure systems and weather. That is just the Earth's atmosphere trying to seek an equilibrium. And the spiritual world, in my opinion, from my perspective, works exactly the same. It's always looking for an equilibrium. Wherever there's light, the darkness tries to make it dimmer. Wherever there is darkness, the light tries to make it brighter. Wherever there's matter, it decays. And wherever there is nothing, matter manifests. Essentially. It's always looking for a balance. And so, really, you're not creating things. You're just moving stuff around. And, I think that's one good thing for people to know. After I read the book, Before You Cast a Spell, before I ever casted a spell, I call it doing a working, which still sounds cheesy as fuck. I wish the English language... I wish somebody... I don't know. I don't like a lot of this wording, is why I don't really like talking about it a whole lot. All this wording is just like, it puts everything in a box that it doesn't really stay confined in. It just kind of fucking spills out everywhere. It's fucking messy to apply all these labels to all this shit. And the only reason I feel fine calling myself a pagan is because it's such a huge fucking box. It's such a broad spectrum of stuff, But anyways, after I read that book, it pretty much showed me that, there's one of its things is it tells you about how you really should try to do all of the real world stuff before trying to dabble in this shit in order to solve your problem. Like, seriously. If you're poor because you're lazy as hell and don't want to work, and if you're so lazy you don't even go buy a lottery ticket, and you do a working to win the lottery, how are you going to win the lottery? How are you going to make that manifest if you don't even have a lottery ticket? You didn't do your work in real life. You didn't do your footwork. And so how can you expect your working to have any effect on anything? Because you're not doing your real world duties. If you don't put applications out there, you can't expect something to work where you're asking the divine or trying to move the spiritual world or manipulate energies such that you get a nice job. If you're not looking for a job, it's not going to happen. You have to do a lot of real world stuff before turning to an alternative. And after reading that book, if you're interested in any of this stuff, after reading that book, you'll likely come out of it like I did. You'll go into it being like, oh yeah, I want to do something for this and something for this and something for that, and have all your stuff lined up, ready to go once you're done reading about the basics and stuff. And then as long as that book is included in your basics of reading material before you start, it'll most likely reduce the stuff you want to do down to one or two things. Because everything else can be dealt with, one. Or two, it could be that what you were going to do is totally unrealistic and impossible, essentially. So that's what you got to look at, is look at the effects as much as you can, the possible side effects as much as you can, and if there are possible negative side effects, figure out, is it worth it? You'll hear a lot of people ask, is it worth the cost? And some people intend it in less in-depth ways than others, but some people do intend it in the way I'm saying is, are all the side effects that you can conceive worth the cost of doing that? Or at least attempting to change that in such a way? Are all of the alternative outcomes things that you're willing to take responsibility for? And if you must, counter it. And if you have to counter it, are all of those possible outcomes things you are willing to accept, things you are willing to take at least partial responsibility for? And so, ultimately, that's why I haven't done a whole lot of workings. The ones I have done have been fairly successful. I've been pretty happy with the results. And that's because I haven't done it. I haven't done anything unless I felt it was really necessary and was willing to accept all of the potential outcomes. And only one of them had an outcome where I didn't really like one of the side effects. And so I did something else in order to kind of tweak it. And it ended up working out fine in the end. It ended up working out actually really well. And I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, that's my suggestion to you, is follow what my favorite witchcraft YouTuber says. Read before you cast a spell, and look at everything. And don't feel bad if everything is reduced to just one or two things that you want to do right away, when you had this major list of stuff that you wanted to do with your practice. Because the movies, right? The movies have had a huge influence on people's perception of this kind of stuff. And everybody tends to think that for the practitioner, it's this magic cure-all pill. It is not. It is not a magic cure-all pill. There is no such thing, not even in the spiritual world. There isn't. Now, I'm sure somebody who is a Christian will say, oh yeah, there is a magic pill. It's called Jesus Christ. Well, I don't believe in that, and so it doesn't really apply here. And you could say that. It works for you. If it works for you, well, fantastic. You have a magic cure-all pill. But it doesn't work for me. I tried it, and it doesn't work. And so I'll go do something else. Again, I think I mentioned this in my first video about spirituality and stuff. If somebody asks me, well, what if all of it is just one big placebo? It's like, well, I could ask that about what you believe too. If it makes you feel good, what does it matter if it's a placebo effect? If every time I've done a working, it works, what does it matter if it's a placebo effect? It's still having an effect, right? I mean, if somebody's right leg is paralyzed and taking sugar pills once a day, taking a sugar pill once a day can make their leg not paralyzed anymore, well then why not just let them keep taking sugar pills? Because it works for them. Now they're able-bodied, you know. And I personally don't believe it's a placebo effect. I genuinely believe that all of these things have happened. That all my successful workings were successful because I put a lot of thought, effort, and energy into them. And I got the results I wanted and intended. Except for that one case where I had to tweak something. I had to do another thing in order to tweak it. And it turned out just fine. You know, so I suppose don't go, if you're going into all of this stuff, don't go into it expecting to still hold on to your prior misconceptions, because like I said, in the movies there's like, you know, crazy healing abilities of practitioners and all this kind of stuff. So keep your expectations low so you won't be disappointed and just say, well, oh, fuck it all then, you know. It is helpful. It can be helpful. It can be a really good thing to have in your life. And it's something to turn to when all else fails. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I highly recommend, before you cast a spell, even though it is heavily Wiccan influenced, and I'm not Wiccan by any stretch of the imagination, I break their rules all the time when I do workings. But it has some good stuff in there. It has some good stuff to learn about. But anyways, you guys keep expanding your knowledge, and whether you're a practitioner or not, I hope you have a fantastic day, because I'm having a great day. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.